Despite the convention of less is more, the idea of ornamentation can function purposefully when integrated gracefully into a design, building, or structure.
Modernism in architecture is a movement that sought to step away from the past and instead look to the future and advancements in technology to abstract and reimagine old truth and styles. Modernism took on a simple and less is more overall design stance and sought to change how people experience the built environment by blurring the lines of old conventions.
Modernism became dominant globally at the turn of the 20th century. As stated by Professor Joe Godlewski in his textbook Introduction to Architecture, Global Disciplinary Knowledge, this movement was inspired by the Industrial Revolution, which led to the implementation of new materials such as reinforced concrete, mass-produced glass, and steel. Architects began to explore defined rectangular and cubic shapes, metal and glass frameworks to construct large windows and flat surfaces and textures. These new compositional techniques paved the way for new architectural theories such as asymmetrical composition, brutalism, functionalism, and Remplan.
Weissenhof Estate in Stuttgart by Le Corbusier shows asymmetrical composition through the offset volumes that shift up and out, as well as brutalist techniques shown through the thick concrete walls and flat surfaces. Adolf Loos' idea of Remplan, the method of volumetric room design that aims at producing a dynamic building section, can be seen in a section of his project, Villa Müller. The Villa's Remplan shows a series of volumetric spaces in a step sequence to rethink conventional floor plans.
Adolf Loos radically changed interior spaces by implementing a system where everything became flexible, including height, dimension, and disposition. However, Loos prioritized the exterior spaces, often maintaining the cubic appeal of the exterior. This style of architecture can be seen in many of his works, but it first appeared in the Rufer House. This house is considered to be the first built house to include Loos's concept of Remplan, which is a floor plan made of split levels to extend variety and order into the space. Rufer House is organized within a tight 10 meter by 10 meter space in the shape of a cube, with the external walls forming the structural shell. Inside, a column articulates the spaces under the Remplan and also conceals the plumbing. According to these floor plans, the abstraction of floors of a building can be seen. Loos himself has stated, "My work does not really have a ground floor, first floor, or basement. It only has connected rooms, annexes, terraces. Each room requires a particular height. The rooms must then be connected in such a way as to make the transition imperceptible, and to effect it in a natural and efficient fashion." But before Loos explored these newfound ideas, he was involved with this group called the Vienna Secession.
Vienna Secession is an art movement in 1897, started by a group of Austrian artists, including painters, sculptors, and architects. The secession artists were concerned, above all else, with the possibilities of art outside the confines of academic tradition. They aimed to create a new style that owed nothing to historic influence. Loos himself was once involved into the movement as well as the early stage. However, he quitted the Vienna Secession later in 1900 during this peak. He even attacked the theory in a book, Spoken into the Void, which was published in the same year. During the time, architects focused on bringing pure geometric forms into the design of their buildings, and one thing they do in common was adding a large amount of decoration and ornament on the surface of their building, which is the opposite of Loos' main theory.
As a result of him leaving the Vienna Secession, Loos radically changed his ideology to opposing the idea of ornament. In his outrageous manifesto titled Ornament and Crime, Loos criticizes that ornament is a crime against the national economy, that it should result in the waste of human labor, money, and material, as well as stating the evolution of culture is synonymous with the removal of ornament from utilitarian objects. Although his piece was satirical to create a reaction, Loos was adamant that there is no need for ornamentation in this world, as allocating more money, resources, and time towards adding ornamentation will only bring superficial joy, as something with no ornamentation would offer the same aspects. As for the evolution of culture, a fancy facade would not impress him because in Vienna at the time, the economy was struggling, and all there was to show for it was ornamental architecture that only looked cool but served no purpose in this time of need. However, architect Louis Sullivan feels then excellent and beautiful building may be designed that shall bear no ornament whatever, but believes just as firmly that a decorated structure, harmoniously conceived, well considered, cannot be stripped of its system of ornament without destroying its individuality. Just because modernism has brought about the idea that architecture loses some form of ornamentation does not imply that all ornamentation is decorative and has no function. Sullivan and fellow architect Frank Lloyd Wright demonstrate that buildings themselves become ornament. They fit into their surrounding landscapes and adopt this idea of organic ornament to shift from ornament being an additive factor to ornament being a pre-existing factor.
An example of modernist architect who incorporated some sense of ornament to enhance the functionalism of his design was Frank Lloyd Wright. His project Falling Water uses materials such as local sandstone to blend in with the landscape and the stream itself to animate the project by having it flow underneath and through the whole project. His use of materials to innovatively celebrate the landscape brings in nature and a modernist idea of blurring outdoor and indoor spaces. His home and studio in Oak Park, Illinois shows his use of ornament through the decorated pillars and statues that frame the facade of the studio, as well as his use of intricate stained glass throughout both the house and the studio.
In conclusion, the modernist era brought about significant changes in the way architects design, with the focus being specifically on form and function. As the focus of architects centered around these concepts, it was important to remember that these designs and buildings didn't lose their identity in the sense that ornamentation was woven into them rather than added to them.